Grazie. We are going to talk you about our country and split it up, the history of that we see in Brazil in three different layers. The Brazil primitive, the Brazil archaic, and the modern Brazil, the modernity of Brazil, which is composed by the two other ones. Brazil, as we must know, has a continental dimensions. It's the only country in the South America that speaks from north to south the same language, without dialects, without any other changes of the language, which is Portuguese. We have different accents. The Brazil was populated by the Indians first, before the Portuguese came.
Everything started wrong since the beginning in Brazil, you know. Something that was supposed to be right, but came out very wrong in another way.
The Indians, they were cannibals. And we say that still we have this cannibalism of culture that in later on we are going to explain you the anthropophagism.
The Portuguese wanted to colonize the Indians. So in the first week or first month that they were in Brazil, they made a mass to celebrate the meeting between them and the Indians. But the Indians had linked him to celebrate the mass, and afterwards they kill him and eat the priest.
His name, the priest, was Sardinia. It was very tasteful. We pay attention on this Indian culture because we can extract a lot of for our handcrafts. So this is the Indian house, the oca, that they make to live in families and also to celebrate some of their religious ceremonies.
And they look like palaces, huge palaces.
Yeah. They have also the objects that they use for their daily life as well as for ceremony or to smoke some joints. Yeah. From the Indians, the Portuguese, they could not colonize the Indians to become slaves. They brought the Afro. From this mixture of Afro and Portuguese and Indian, we call the archaic Brazil, the Brazil from the countryside, the caipiras, the people that work with. We are going just to show you short images, not the whole history. But this we take as the Brazil archaic, that has the handcraft made by necessities of the countryside. This, for instance, is the northeast of Brazil.
In a very desertic and arid zone in
Where
Brazil.
they make artifact clothes and objects made out of leather. Then we come to the modernity.
This is about ugliness, you know.
We say modernity in Brazil was shipped out. È stato cagata la modernità in Brazil. With the Macunaíma, during the week of the modern art. Macunaíma was the symbol of imperfection, was a hero, anti-hero. This is the Macunaíma, I introduced you. He was not a bird, but it was shipped in the world, became adult, and just made mistakes.
And
so, this is when Brazil started not trying to be a mirror of Portugal anymore. When Brazilians, they are artists, a group of artists, they start making analysis of what Brazil was. What is the modernity in Brazil? Is the perfection our main goal? Is the imperfection our poetry? So it started in 1932, the week of modern art, 2022, sorry, with Mário de Andrade, Fernando de Carvalho, and many others that start, Tarsila do Amaral, Cecília Meirelles also, and many others that start thinking about what was the modernity in Brazil, the tropical zone, what could influence, what could it make difference between the northern parts, the European culture. You say something?
No.
And which is an example of how to analyze and process the Brazilian climate and Brazilian way of living.
Imagine up to the 50s, all the Brazilians were used to use to wear suits.
Tie, to be very European. He elaborates this cloth from men, tropical men, which was composed of a skirt and a blouse with many entrances of air. And he made this parade in downtown of Sao Paulo in 1953. That was a scandal for machos, Latin machos, and many other. But he had another idea of how would be the classic tropical man. Besides that, he made furniture too. That was made in 1930s. Hello? Hello? Está funcionando de novo. Okay. That was made in 1930s. Then we had another example, which is Lina Bo Bardi. She was not Brazilian, but she came from Italy. And she contributed. And she has contributed a lot for our culture. This is the Museum of Art of Sao Paulo. But Lina Bo Bardi was one foreigner eyes to the Brazilian culture. She has employed a lot of Brazilian elements that Brazilians could not see in the architecture or in design. This is a cultural center also in downtown Sao Paulo, the Sesc Pompeia. That is an integration between a factory and a modern architecture. This was his house also her house in Sao Paulo, and a little of her furniture.
Well, I was born when Brasilia was being projected. So we had all the influence about Brasilia, because at that time was the beginning of the industrialization in Brazil, the cars and industry, and we had the mind of the country of the future. This country, this future has already arrived yet. We are still waiting for the future, but it was a symbol of transformation in the 50s.
Brasilia is a project of the President Juscelino Kubitschek that gave to Neimayer make the execution, but it was a prophecy of Don Bosco, that a dream of Don Bosco, that in the future there will be a civilization in a certain parallel and meridian that crossed right in the heart of Brazil. And then this president utopically went to this place and celebrated this line with this cross, and then Neimayer projected the city in this
in the middle of nowhere, you know. The city is based over a crystal quartz rock of 200 square meters, 1,000 square meters of crystal. So sometimes if you go outside the city, you can pick up crystal. It's amazing. It's a pre-Amazonian jungle.
Not jungle, it's a small Amazon, the beginning of Amazon almost. Then we have also another one that we like very much in terms of representation of landscape, is Roberto Bulemat. He made all the landscape of Rio de Janeiro in some parts, one part in Sao Paulo, and many things in Brasilia. As well as he collaborated with Le Corbusier in the palace of the culture minister in Rio de Janeiro, when Rio used to be the main capital before Brasilia. And this is his project for the Le Corbusier project. He used to represent with colors, blocks of colors that translated to blocks of colors in vegetation. This is Brasilia. And this is the real landscape he made between the Central Airport and Copacabana. It's the Aterro de Flamengo. We see always in all those projects some something that goes with the flow, like organic shapes, like not so square, not so different from the Spanish urban lines in the rest of South America, which is a chess board. Brazil, since the Portuguese, they follow the landscape to construct the cities, the geography. Then we have another wave of modernity. We just had two or three images, the tropicalism. That was a culture during the military dictator power, but it was another attempt of how to analyze Brazil, the modern Brazil in the 60s, mixed with hippie culture, but that was a very good movement in terms of music. From that we came with Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, Gal Costa, Maria Bethânia, and movies from Cinema Novo. It was our new wave of movies, like Godard in France, Glauber Rocha proposed another reading of our country. In objects, we had Ligia Clark, the representation of the fauna of Brazil with the bishops and birds.
And these objects, they are all kinetic. You can change the shapes and transform it into several shapes and forms that the user gets.
There are small sculptures that you're gonna fold and then you become a bird or become an animal.
I always see those sculptures, and I want to make one day a chair like this, that can be a piece of art at the same time you can use as a chair.
And then us.
Well, when I was a kid, my dream was to be an Indian. My mom, she was used to take me to the school, and I refused to use shoes because we live in the countryside, in a small city with lots of rains, waterfalls.
And myself, I used to say I would like to be an astronaut. My time was the time of the Apollo 11, 10, and I always was connected to a science field. So this can be a good blend between us. As Humberto said, we were born in the countryside of Sao Paulo, in a city surrounded by 70 waterfalls around. So we go every weekend, whenever we are in Brazil, we spend time on those places. But we live in Sao Paulo, this jungle of concrete. And our work, we can say it's this blend between the country, the urban and the country culture. We don't have shame of being countrysiders. We are called caipiras in Sao Paulo. Whenever our accent is different, but we love that. This is the flavor.
It's our treasure to be part of it, to mix those, make this hybridism.
When we showed all the pieces, like the projects of Neimayer, Gulemat, how do they represent their objects? We had this, that was our first project. We didn't tell you, but you must know, Beto is a lawyer, he started the business, and I'm an architect. And I never did a house until 1 year ago. And we love to represent our objects by the real scale, never by the detailed project. So this is just to illustrate a sketch of one of our most famous pieces, the Vermelha chair.
And all of our projects, they start from the material. The material, they play an important role in our work because it's like a flirt. This chair, for instance, we bought a rope, a bunch of ropes, and we accidentally put over a table, and the rope deconstructed. So I told Fernando, this is what I would like to do, something that represents the Brazilian chaos, the happiness, the imperfection, the reconstruction.
And we made this chair in 1993, and it took 10 years to be, no, in 1992, 5 years until we got this piece in production by the Italian company Edra. In Brazil, we have sold 5 pieces during 5 years in our studio, weaving every day, every piece that we had as a order. Once this piece was published in American book, and then the art director of Edra, architect Massimo Morozzi, saw this chair on a book, in this American book, and phoned Sao Paulo to our students and said, I want to produce the Vermelha chair. I said, he must be kidding. It's 450 meters of ropes. And that time was the time of Italy was in the 90s, 80s, the plastic, the injection molding, industrial design, minimalism. And we were completely baroque with this chair. He said, this guy must, or he's crazy, or he's kidding. It must be a journalist that wants to. I didn't know Massimo Morozzi. But we said, okay, we can send you the project. But how to send a project of those
400 meters of
very spontaneous weaving, that 450 meters. We made a movie of that. We picked up the structure, Humberto was weaving, and I videotaped it. Step by step, we made an edition. We have sent to Edra. When they saw it, they loved it. And we didn't make any other visit to see the production, to control. When we went to the Salon del Mobile in 1998, it was like this. And we were surprised. We said, how those guys could translate. Then we started knowing that there is a very good sensibility for the Italian companies. Whenever they want to do something, they do the maximum. And there are people that knows your address, they know your, it's just, I say, it's like you send a letter, if you send a good address with the zip code, with everything on it, you get to the real person.
And Massimo loved the video, and when we met him personally, he told us, oh, I was thinking to sell the video with the structure and the bunch of ropes so anyone can weave it. It was, I remember very.
So this encounter was very, very good and very powerful in our life because potentialized more and more creations, like the Neimayer chair. This chair also we have made with garden hoses to alter the garden.
You know, since we were creating those pieces, we didn't have money to invest in plastic tools to make plastic chairs. So we kind of perverting the function of the materials to give them another function.
Somehow we were looking to our back cultures, like the Indians, like the people from the countryside, or also for the favela people, how the poor people in Brazil, they reprocess things that are garbage into shelter, into functional things from their daily life. We were doing somehow the same process. That's why we made the favela chair. It was also the inspiration on the favela process of constructing a house. We were nearby the fruit market in Sao Paulo, the first chair, when it was made, and we saw all the boxes thrown out. And nearby that, there are people, they make doll houses, they make dog houses, furniture. And then we picked up some of these lads, and Humberto made the first chair. Then 13 years later, also architect Morozzi took for the production this chair. And we have sold just 2 in Brazil during 13 years. Then, when Edra saw that, they said, we must, since this is a very strong symbol of Brazil, this chair must be produced in Brazil, not for the Studio Campana, but we should find a community or a factory. We went to the down south of Brazil, almost in Argentina, where there is a German community, and it's also a furniture home. So, the favela now is made by German in Brazil, exported to Italy, and resold in Brazil by euro prices. And now we have sold more than 2 chairs.
It was fun because we made a kind of workshop with the workers in the factory, how to be precise, how to make deconstruction, to be ugly, to be imperfect. And it was fun. We presented this Salone di Mobili here in Milano. It sold some pieces, you know, and Massimo asked to another order to the company.
Edra had another request of the clients.
So the workers in Brazil, they forgot those commandments that we told them and start to make very precise, you know, very
chairs.
Looks like Art Deco chairs. So I need to come back again and took the works to the backyards of the factory where there is a huge pile of wood. So I told them, please, every day, whenever you are going to do this chair, please look at this, and we want this situation, you know. And they got all the furniture from the other companies, they polished and made the chair.
All these legs in this chair, they are recycled. They buy the piece of wood of other companies in the area, and they just clean and put in the chair. It became a symbol for them, because it's the only chair in the company that's completely messy. Also, in another, this is our first plastic chair, but it started with bamboo. We always go back and forward in a project. Sometimes, in order to have it represented, we don't wait, or we don't complain because we don't have money, or if we don't have the tool to make it. We make in another material, and then we have it the way it is. This is Jeanette's chair. It's also made by Edra. Nature, yeah. This is another cannibalism.
Nature plays an important role also in our work.
And we had also this briefing of Edra to make a couch or a sofa without structure or any other kind of support. Just the material should speak louder. So we made the boa sofa, which we have here 190 meters. 90 meters of velvet tubes with the boa inside.
Weaved also the same way like the Vermelha chair, but we kind of make a magnifying lenses over the detail of the Vermelha chair to construct this piece.
It's fun because whenever we do something, we are blessed to have this pleasure. I guess we keep some of the Brazilian sense of humor to do the things we do. So we had to make this in the factory in Edra because we had to send a prototype saying, okay, they are going to make now. Instead, they asked us to go there and to process this with two other works. Me and Humberto spent 1 week to weave this, but it was just laughing all the time with the people and trying to, because it's new. We are reinventing or sometimes inventing process that no one knows.
It's a kind of the dialogue between us and Edra. We kind of bring the manual process into a company that's very like Mercedes-Benz in terms of techniques. And so this human process that we want to do in our pieces, you know, because we think that we are losing this process and everything is becoming so equal to each designer. So we try to go to another direction.
Which this is more it's a simplified from the boa. This is the jacaré caimán. It's a modular system of couches, of pillows that you put one at the top of the other. But one thing that's good too is the report that we have with Massimo. Whenever we have to elaborate or have to have a briefing of Edra. We make a tour in a place that has nothing to do with our environment, or we take him to a tour in Brazil, like going to Chapada dos Veadeiros in Goiás, and then he's completely urban. Massimo Morozzi is not someone that I could say, let's go to the country and you're going to have fun. He always complained, these tropical monsters, they are going to and we stay sometimes in a hotel just looking at the nature outside, or sometimes we go to the Chinatown in Paris, in Place d'Italie, just to see labels of supermarket. And this is something inspiring. We can say we are blessed by this. We work also with other companies as well as Alessi, but by miracle, we are putting the most handcraft pieces in Alessi that we never expect. Those that were condemned to be one unique, one of a kind, now we are having it. So we say in Brazil, tiro saiu pela culatra, whenever you have the bullet, spare it against the bandits. In our case, it happened, but in a good way. This is our production in our studio. Whenever we have a prototype that's so complicated, or no one wants to make it or produce it, we babysit those chairs in our studio in limited editions or very, very haute couture, like sartoria, and then we make that there. This is an attempt to make an upholstery of a chair without using the traditional method.
And this project is interesting because it kind of involve a community in northeast of Brazil. Their tradition is to make those dolls. So in the briefing of like Massimo Morozzi, how to make another kind of upholstery without using the traditional methods of the upholstery.
As I told, some of those projects, they were presented by other companies to Edra or to anyone that could make it. Whenever they don't want to make it, this was presented to Edra. And as well as we made the evolution with the animals. It's fun. This is an inspiration we had from Luna Park, that machine that gets the animals, as well as in Sao Paulo. Sometimes we see during summer a big head of animals. Is someone trying to sell in the streets those plush animals? So we saw once a pile of animals walking. It was a man in downtown Sao Paulo, is filled up of those people. They sell Chinese toys. And then we made, that was the bunk pit chair. This is dolphin and sharks, dead bears.
This is a project that it was born from a kind of utopia from me and Fernando.
We didn't like those chairs. Even though they are plastic, they are so modern, but we don't like those models. And our mother bought to sit down in the street by the countryside, and we hate that. Now we said we are going to steal her chair and make something better. Then we made this kind of revenge of the tweaker against the plastic, because we have the analysis. Those cafe chairs, until the beginning of mid-last century, they were made with natural wicker. You could see in Paris, Rome, Milan, Rio de Janeiro, all the terraces of cafés, they have this in natural wicker. Then they were substituted by fake wicker. In the 90s, mid-80s, 90s, it was just injection molding, like those chairs. And then we made the revenge of the wicker, like a parasite is going to start at the way back. So we decided, instead of just making with just one chair, we made with multiples of them. This is the bench that the guy who leaves the wicker works behind the chair. We integrate everything, so the wicker was like eating everything around it. Then finally we had the chair that now we gave to my mother as a present back, and she loves it. She wants royalties. She said, brings to my bad taste, you know, you can earn money. So I went and this is the cafe chair, the most simple. From this, we have an invitation to make a curatorial process in the Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York. And we established, since our work is based in weaving, we established this, all the pieces that we have chosen in the museum, the base was weaving, in bidimensional, by wallpapers, or in fabrics, or in ceramics, or in wicker itself, or bamboo. And we have to make a piece inspired in our selection. Then we made the trans chair, like a detox of the plastic. This chair now is all in wicker, just spelling
We got all the objects in the studio from our assistants and
the Havaianas,
incorporate to the chair.
Came from each one's house in the studio. And then it is more conceptual chair. It's now in Copenhagen until September. And going back to the Indian houses, last year during Art Basel in Basel, we were invited for a project in the Vitro Design Museum that 7 designers should represent their houses. My home was the name of the exhibition. And we were told to take the marquise of the museum, the front of the museum, to make our project. And our project should make a contact connection between inside and outside, should talk about nature, could not have a wall in this area because the marquise is the entrance of the museum. We had a very difficult task and also to interfere in Ferngari's museum. Imagine if he doesn't like it, I would be disgraced for the rest of my life. And we went to the Indian roots and we made the walls of the Walka there. It was during summer. This house, this wall, suffered wind, rain, tempest, didn't water inside, didn't get wind inside. It was the most fresh area in the museum. Everybody went there. So we said, we had something to learn. We had to look at in our backyard to talk to our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to ask something, do or be quiet forever. We don't like to stay so much in our work, so we prefer open the discussion. To don't, if I see someone with the eyes sleeping,